Dementia Researcher with a blog and a rating.
Today is all about sleep and Alzheimer's disease, and whether we should really be worried about a few sleepless nights. As a dementia researcher, I spend a lot of time thinking about what affects brain health, but recently, this question became a little more personal. Over the past few weeks, I've had a few sleepless nights, and it got me wondering, what is actually happening to my brain when I sleep, and is it harmful when I don't sleep well? I am sure fellow PhD students can relate to the sleepless nights. But academia has somehow managed to create an environment where everyone agrees that sleep is essential, yet makes it surprisingly difficult to get any, whether it's stress from experiments, thesis writing, postdoc hunting, or grant applications. So if poor sleep really is a risk factor for dementia, I suspect a significant proportion of researchers will have a degree of personal concern. It turns out we're not alone in asking these questions. Many people have asked me to talk about the effect of sleep on brain health, especially the relationship between sleep and Alzheimer's disease. It has become one of the most fascinating areas of dementia research over the last decade. What once seemed like a passive period of rest is now understood to be a critical time when the brain carries out essential maintenance and housekeeping functions. Increasing evidence suggests that the quality of our sleep may influence the very biological processes involved in Alzheimer's disease. So, why is sleep so important? I used to think that sleeping is a fundamental flaw to the human body. We are unconscious for several hours of the day in a very vulnerable state. However, sleep is actually one of the most important parts of life. While we sleep, the brain remains remarkably active. Sleep helps consolidate memories, regulates emotions, supports immune function, and maintains healthy connections between neurons. But one of the most exciting discoveries in neuroscience is that sleep actually appears to help the brain clear away waste products that accumulate throughout the day. Try to think of sleep as the brain's overnight cleaning crew. Much of the excitement in this field stems from the discovery of the glymphatic system. This network helps move cerebrospinal fluid through the brain, clearing away metabolic waste and unwanted proteins. And studies suggest that this system becomes particularly active during sleep, especially deep, slow-wave sleep. This discovery became especially interesting when researchers realized that some of the proteins being cleared are the same proteins involved in Alzheimer's disease. As most of us know, Alzheimer's disease is characterized by the accumulation of two key proteins, amyloid beta and tau. Amyloid beta forms sticky plaques outside brain cells, while tau forms tangles inside brain cells. These changes can begin many years and possibly decades before symptoms become noticeable. Researchers have shown that amyloid beta levels naturally rise during wakefulness and fall during sleep. When sleep is disrupted, the brain may have fewer opportunities to clear these proteins efficiently. And several studies have found that even a single night of sleep deprivation can lead to measurable increases in amyloid beta levels. This doesn't mean that one bad night's sleep causes Alzheimer's disease, but it does demonstrate how closely sleep and brain biology are connected. In fact, some of the strongest evidence comes from the Whitehall 2 study, which followed nearly 8,000 adults over 25 years. Here, researchers found that people who regularly slept 6 hours or less per night in their 50s and 60s had a significantly higher risk of developing dementia later in life compared with those sleeping around 7 hours per night. And persistent short sleep was associated with approximately a 30% increased risk of dementia. Importantly, these studies only show associations rather than proof of cause and effect. These are still theories, and we do not know the true story. Sleep is only one factor among many that influence dementia risk. However, the evidence increasingly suggests that sleep may be one of the most important pieces of this puzzle. Also, sleep and dementia are a two-way relationship. One of the most important findings in recent years is that the relationship between sleep and Alzheimer's disease does appear to go both ways. Poor sleep may contribute to Alzheimer's-related changes in the brain. At the same time, those very changes can disrupt sleep. In fact, sleep disturbances are often observed years before memory problems and symptoms may become apparent. People may experience fragmented sleep, increased daytime sleepiness, and changes in their sleep-awake cycle, or even difficulty staying asleep through the night. As amyloid and tau accumulate in brain regions involved in regulating sleep, sleep quality may deteriorate further. This creates a potentially vicious cycle. Poor sleep may contribute to Alzheimer's disease progression, and Alzheimer's progression may then make sleep even worse. Remember, the point of this podcast isn't to make everyone panic about a few sleepless nights, but to understand what is happening to our brain when we sleep. Everyone experiences poor sleep from time to time. Stress, travel, illness, work deadlines, family responsibilities, or simply an overactive mind can all result in sleepless nights. The reassuring news is that the occasional poor sleep is unlikely to have a meaningful impact on your long-term dementia risk. Our brain is remarkably resilient and well equipped to cope with temporary disruptions. What actually concerns researchers most is chronic sleep disruption that persists over months or years. This then got me thinking to what happens in the brain in sleep disorders. Conditions such as obstructive sleep apnea are receiving increasing attention in dementia research. Sleep apnea causes repeated interruptions in breathing during sleep, resulting in fragmented sleep and reduced oxygen levels. And studies have linked untreated sleep apnea with poorer cognitive performance and an increased risk of cognitive decline. Some researchers even suggest that people experiencing persistent sleep problems in later life may have up to double the risk of developing dementia compared to those who sleep well overall. So, the relationship between sleep and Alzheimer's disease is one of the most exciting developments in modern dementia research. While sleep alone will not determine whether someone will develop dementia, it is increasingly being recognized alongside exercise, cardiovascular disease, and education as an important component of brain health across the lifespan. And the main take-home message here is that if you're a PhD student or scientist reading this at midnight while analyzing data, consider this your evidence-based reminder that sometimes the most productive thing you can do for your brain is go to bed and rest.
Thank you for listening. Join the Dementia Research bloggers and share your own views.